Hello everybody, Andrew Casey at Hypersanity Books. In this case study video we're looking at Bill and Ted and A Lifetime of Failures. This is one of the hardest subjects to write, and it is also a confronting personal subject matter. I know there's a lot of authors within this group, and I do also want to say you don't have to give up on your writing journey. It's just finding the right balance in life. Otherwise, let's get into it. Number 10. The Beginning.
I'm Bill S. Preston, Esquire.
And I'm Ted Theodore Logan.
And we're Wild Stallions!
The beginning of the story is two teenagers working on big dreams to have a rock band. With their passions and dreams, they have the intentions of trying to hire someone else to be their lead singer and take them to glory, instead of learning to play the instruments for themselves. The other premise of the story, in the future, 700 years later, so the year is 2688, there is certain other problems coming forward because in the past they're going to fail their history test. Oh no! The problem there is Ted is going to be sent from his strict father to military school. So they have to pass their history test, which is where the story begins with the time traveling and very flawed characters with big dreams.
Caesar is a salad dressing dude.
Number 9. Historical figures. I did enjoy how they introduced different characters through the timelines in this story, and how Beethoven was in this movie as well. Now, when they're at the shopping centre, I loved how the characters were also finding themselves. Napoleon's montage at the water slide, that was actually enjoyable, to be honest, seeing the different ways that that person may be reacting. Now, a lot of the storytelling is total BS, and that's what the whole point and the premise of the story is. It is just being BS. On the premise with this story as well, I also want to point out with the montage at the school where they're doing their presentation. I love the one part with the presentation with what Abraham Lincoln says at the end. That is fourth person perspective. That is a fantastic way that they wrapped up the story. And then when the audience were asking for the encore, we want an encore. That is also fourth person perspective, reaching out to the group. And in the very end of the film,
they do get better.
Number 8. Bogus Triagonist.
Excuse us, dude, but your shoes are untied.
Within the second film, we meet Death. The two characters get killed by the robot usses, and it's the way the characters are flawed in their dialogue. It's enjoyable. The characters are still flawed. They're unemployed. Life's not looking too good. Death also adds into the story by being the triagonist. The premise of Death, they have to beat Death at certain games to be able to get out of hell, to go to heaven, to find their way back to Earth.
What?
Best 2 out of 3. Best 3 out of 5.
I don't believe this guy. Best of 7?
Damn right!
With that whole storytelling, it's called Bogus Journey for a reason. It's not to be taken too seriously. Even though we're talking about a case study of the characters, it's how the characters changed. With the second film, just wrapping on that one, they beat the robot usses by getting other creatures from heaven to create robot usses of themselves to fight those robot usses, and leads to the ending where they beat the antagonist. Death was not the antagonist. Death also added more humour into the story, especially in the closing credits. I enjoyed watching that a couple times just to get the laughs. And with the conclusion, it's also ending the story with a live concert. The circumstances are different. the story was engaging, and there is the other part of the time game to be able to get experience and go back to that key moment to perform. With your writing, you may need more time to produce the book that you're trying to produce. And that's one of the hard things that we're going to talk about in the next point.
You might be a king or a little street sweeper, but sooner or later you dance with the Reaper.
Number 7, Destiny.
Not long before we were born, they were told they were going to write a song that was going to unite the entire world.
The problem was, the harder Dads tried,
The less interested people seemed to be in their music.
Dad, I've told you 1,000 times. Bill and I have to keep going.
Till your music unites the world. Get real jobs. Be role models to your daughters.
One thing with the third film, it still kept mystery because now we're talking 25 years later, I believe. This is a hard thing to understand. They have spent most of their life from the second movie to the third movie constantly failing, constantly not doing well, but still being persistent on the dream. And one of the things with the destiny, what is the destiny? They're so focused on the goal for so many years, they're dragging their wives and children through this absurd story towards this destiny that makes absolutely no sense. And one of the things that the father says about trying to make life stable and make a conservative choice compared to living in the dreams, I think one of the big points I want to make with being flawed characters, they are so focused on trying to write the perfect song that they didn't enjoy the journey to create that so-called perfect song. So from the second movie with the events, everything's going downhill from there. The events of the second movie, if you want to call it in modern terms, it's a viral moment. Everything they've done has gone viral, and then everything falls apart. Number 6, Missy.
Ted and I have known Missy in different capacities for many decades. And Missy became Mom.
She married my dad and became my mom.
And now she's marrying Ted's little brother. This happy event would seem to make Deacon his own father-in-law, and Ted his own uncle.
Not to mention making my dad his own son.
Number 5, Therapy.
Do you understand why this situation might seem at all strange to your wives?
I mean, we're a couple of couples, right?
That is true. But usually with couples therapy, it just means one couple.
With what they're saying, they are breaking the fourth wall in some of the dialogue. And it's also effective because you're seeing how flawed the characters actually are, instead of saying to their wife, I love you, because they're including themselves as we. This is also effective storytelling to show how life has gone in a poor way. Both wives are also supporting the families while they're trying to live the dream. And that's one thing with obsession. You can have your big dreams, and you might be writing a book that's a bestseller. However, you still got to find that right balance within your family.
We love you guys.
Oh, that is good, dude.
Ted, can you say the same thing, but instead of we, say I in the sentence?
Elizabeth?
Yes.
I and Bill love you and Joanna.
You know, it's been so hard watching you beat your heads against the wall for 25 years.
Number 4, Past, Present, Future. The daughters are going on their own journey, and that's something I'd like. They're going into the past to get past icons to help form your band. So it's taken the premise of the first movie just in a very different way. So instead of going for historical figures, it's historical figures of music. So traveling to the future, they're meeting up with multiples of themselves, where it's themselves as the antagonist to why they can't complete their goal.
After you failed couples therapy, Liz and Joe were visited by other thems from the future who gave them a phone booth and sent them all through time and space.
Our wives have been gone for 2 years and you didn't do anything about it?
Oh, you did all right. You went back and you made it worse.
Go make it happen. Thank you, wise old usses.
Yeah.
I feel like I never really knew you, Ted. Oh. That's my fault. The truth is, I looked at you and saw myself.
It's the circumstances of the time-space continuum and things being in chaos is the antagonist force. That's also another thing to make clear. An antagonist doesn't have to necessarily be another person. And in the present, sometimes we can have ourselves under pressure to write a book or write a song, whatever we're doing, and in the present moment it can feel so overwhelming that that deadline's coming close. And I think with the premise of the film, they've got to keep that present moment in chaos, though the future selves that they see, they also see consequences that could have been worse. So as the case study goes to the different consequences of story, sometimes you might see something within the future to think, if I could do something today, in the present, what can I do to not have this type of future?
And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. Not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
Number 3, conflict resolution. Now there is the conflict that's mentioned that yes, they have sued Death and taken him to court and keeping the distance from Death, the restraining order. It took their daughters to take a different approach, so it's not so personal to be able to solve another problem in the present as the story was progressing. Now, it does take some of the theme of the Bogus Journey within the story, because it is also a story not to take too seriously. With the premise on, as far as the conflict resolution goes, I found as much as that got wrapped up quickly compared to other normal case scenarios of conflict resolution, it's not so easy to have conflict resolution without some help.
Dads, is there something you would like to say to Death?
We really did love playing with you, dude.
Number 2, daughters. The two daughters worked well for the story as triagonists, gathering other triagonists that were necessary to resolve the problem within the end. Now, with the two daughters, the relationship with their fathers, they refer to them both as dads instead of dad. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I have seen some children refer to dad and stepdad as dads at the same time. It's what's feeling comfortable for the child within this circumstance because of how close the characters have all grown up together. Though the other part, they have also been closer and supportive with their fathers, trying to write that perfect song. The resolution was not what they were thinking. The resolution was doing what was sort of done in the second film with the live concert. Number 1, diversity done right. Now, diversity in fiction, we hear about this where some books and some movies to be published have to be done a certain checklist to be ticked off, where you need to support gay rights, you need to have a trans person, racial interrelationships, and all these particular specific points for it to be called diversity. And some books will not be published by traditional publishers for that reason. Now, I'm not trying to badmouth other companies or anything else. With this story, it wraps up the story nicely. It touches on the diversity subject because through all of time, through all of history, every single person bands together for this one climactic moment. And that is diversity done without pointing out diversity.
And so, it wasn't so much the song that made the difference.
It was everyone playing it together.
You can reach out to me at email, andrewcasey@hypersanitybooks.com. I might be able to answer some of your questions in these videos. You don't have to have your writing journey be alone. However, within reason, I can respond to some extent. Now, moving forward with everything, I hope you enjoyed the video today. Hit like, subscribe, comment. I'll be doing more case studies. And on the subject of a lifetime of struggles, you can also apply some of what you've learned here today into other types of fiction with your writing, but that's another story that you may be writing another time.